Lord Sebastian Coe, who is the President of World Athletics, and Ms. Helen Delaney, who is the responsible for international relationships and governance for World Athletics. And to my left, I have the President of the Anguilla Amateur Athletic Association, Ms. Lorna Rogers. We have had the privilege of hosting, alongside the Athletic Association, Lord Coe and Ms. Delaney for the past 2 days. They will be leaving us, unfortunately, tomorrow to journey to the British... Too soon. To journey onwards to the British Virgin Islands. And we wish them all success, but we know that Anguilla is the best. We've been having some very positive conversations about the development of athletics in Anguilla. And we are here this afternoon to invite questions and conversation with the press in relation to athletic development on island, and specifically so that the people of Anguilla and those overseas have the opportunity of interfacing directly with Lord Coe. So I will allow the president of the Anguilla Amateur Athletic Association to share a few words in relation to this visit and in relation to the plans of the Amateur Athletic Association, and then I will turn quickly over to Lord Coe to share his perspectives, and then we will invite questions from the media and the press who are with us here this afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. This has been a visit that has been long in the making, long anticipated, and it has finally happened. And we, from the association, we would like to thank both Lord Coe and Ms. Delaney for taking time out of their busy schedules to come and visit us in Anguilla. I know when you're governing over 200 countries worldwide, being able to find the time to visit a federation such as ours is indeed a challenge, and therefore we are very grateful to be able to host both Lord Coe and Ms. Delaney. As I said in an earlier conversation, we are a very small federation, but that does not diminish what we can bring to the table in terms of athletics, but particularly in terms of what we can do for our young people in Anguilla. And with the possibility of getting a home for track and field, because we've never had a home, we are anticipating great things for the development of our athletes. And this is one of the reasons why they are here to support our endeavors and what we have been seeking to do over quite a long time. So this is indeed a privilege and an honor to be able to host them. In terms of our plans, that is the association's plans going forward, well, we are anticipating that we will have a home for track and field, and we look forward to all the things that we anticipate will come along with that. We expect that we'll be able to host more competitions, whether that be Leeward Islands, OECS Championships, Carifta, which you know is a big deal and a very big event. And on the world stage, Carifta, in my mind, is probably the biggest junior competition in the world. And if we find ourselves in a position to be able to host Carifta, then that is really a dream come true. So we are looking forward to be able to host other federations and to expose our local athletes to that kind of competition, which can only enhance and raise the standard of competition here in Anguilla. So that, for now, is where we are at as an association.
Thank you. So over to you, Lord Coe.
Minister, thank you, and Lorna, thank you for so clearly laying out your ambitions, and I know those ambitions. We've discussed them many times, in fact, many times over the last decade. And let me salute the ongoing commitment that you have always given our sport, and thank you to the Federation and to all your all your partners that have allowed you and helped you to do that. I'm going to unashamedly, if I may, just pick up briefly on the core point that Lorna made, and that was about the development of the sport on this island. The need to create infrastructure which will allow a critical mass of all sorts of expertise and disciplines to come together. And that as President of World Athletics, of course, I am very committed to a legacy that leaves more young people engaged in our sport, and ideally more young people creating their own pathways with the help of good coaches to get to our major championships, both regionally and internationally. But I also see our sport being a very potent servant of the economy, of education, of health, and of nation building. So within the ambitions to develop a track and field competence, and when I say competence, not in the raw material, because as we know, there's a lot of talent on this island that sadly has probably lost its way because of some of the the paucity of facility. And that, I guess, is quintessentially why we're here. We want to support those ambitions. We want to do what we can as World Athletics to create the opportunities, particularly around infrastructure. And I'm off in a few moments to sit down with coaches and young, budding, aspiring athletes. And I'm sure that's the message I'm going to get from them, that life would be so much easier and more productive with a facility that at least allows them to coalesce around a critical mass of skill and discipline. So, Lorna, thank you for hosting me so graciously. And Deanne, thank you for continuing to drive this project forward. And I'm sure within weeks you will be on the phone to me.
Either way.
But thank you. And to the media who are joining us today, thank you for carving out time to be with us. It's very important. Thank you.
Helen, would you be able to share a few words?
Thank you, Minister, and it's always slightly challenging to follow my president. But no, I just echo his words in terms of it's very good to be here. My role involves working with our member federations, and there's only so much that you can attain from reading reports or even discussions. So actually, there's no better way to understand the challenges, the needs, the opportunities than being here on the ground. So thank you for the opportunity to do that, and I look forward to, it's been a great 2 days. We see schools tomorrow as well, so that's really important, the kids' athletics, the schools, the grassroots, and I look forward to seeing how this journey develops.
Awesome. So as I would have indicated previously, 2024 is the year for sport in Anguilla. We have increased our investment in sports by 100%, and a lot of that investment is geared towards developmental programs, ensuring that we have both the operational and the capital allotments to support that development this year. And as Seb has alluded to, the real driving force is about ensuring that we have a good social structure on the ground, that there's social cohesion, that we have programs that young men and young boys and young girls can go into with positive mentorship examples that will help them to grow into active and good citizens of the Anguillian society and the Anguillian and global community. So it is quite important for us to see sport not only as a extracurricular activity, but as an integral part of how we socialize our young people and our nation, how we begin to identify ourselves. From decades before, when I was much smaller, I've always had the strong impression that Anguilla is a sporting nation. And we want to revive that spirit, the spirit of sports in Anguilla, for those persons who continue to dedicate their time, to our coaches and our volunteers, who continue to give countless hours, which we really could not repay, for their investment in young people. And we are eternally grateful, and we see this really as an opportunity to say thank you for all of the investments that they have made over the years as we continue to strengthen our sports investment for the long term, so that whoever finds themselves in our seats will have something that is powerful and something that's sustainable to use. So with that said, of course, our goal for 2024 and beyond is to see the development of sporting infrastructure in Anguilla, and specifically we want to see a track and field development. As you know, 2024 is also an Olympic year, and I'm sure Seb and Helen are preparing themselves for the Olympics in France, but Anguilla has a vested interest as well, as we see Zarnell Hughes prepare for to be the king on the track in the 100-meter final. And it's quite fitting for us to say that Anguilla can come from grass tracks to Olympic finals. We have demonstrated that although we are small in size, we have the talent and we have the capacity, and we want to continue to nurture that capacity now and in the future. So we are looking forward to do as best as we can to ensure, by any means necessary, that we are putting the necessary frameworks in place to ensure that track and field development is a reality here in Anguilla, alongside the counterpart investments in developmental programs, the strengthening of our coaching programs, and the recognition of our volunteers who make sports work in this country. So we're gonna open up for some short questions if anybody from the press is interested, whether locally or elsewhere. You can share at this point and ask questions.
Good afternoon, Lloyd Guns from Lloyd's Live. Mr. Corp, I've always been a fan of yours, and you know, it's a real pleasure meeting you here today. As president of World Athletic, with their program, how do you see that fitting in terms of assisting Anguilla?
Oh, it's a very important part of what we do. We're a federation, international federation of well over 200 countries. There are only really two truly global sports in the world. There's football, soccer, and not to be confused with what they play in slightly north of here. And of course, track and field. And the great advantage we have as a sport is the global nature, the universality of our sport, but it also is a challenge because we have some powerhouse federations like the United States, China, Japan. We're also dealing appropriately with really small populations and land masses, and so you can't really have a one-size-fits-all approach. So I think the most important thing we recognize is that nobody is the same, not even within a region. You know, islands separated by maybe only a few miles of sea still have very different needs, as Helen's talked about, needs, challenges, opportunities. And it's for us to figure out with the federations and federation presidents like Lorna exactly what it is that we can do to be helpful, because we don't have infinite funds. We're not a poor sport, but nor are we FIFA. So we have to be very clear that where we do spend and we do invest, that we get a return on that And the return is simply growing the sport. It's not profit for us or profit for the federations. It's making sure that we do it in a way that encourages more young people into the sport. So we have a range of grants available. They're being condensed so that in years to come it'll be a simpler, a clearer process. And we group federations by size, so we're not saying that every federation has to deliver World Championship performers. We recognise that actually in smaller communities, engaging with government at local and national level and using athletics as a way of meeting their ambitions is equally important to us. So we want every federation waking up every morning feeling they have a role in growing the sport, rather than feeling that because you don't necessarily year in, year out produce world-class athletes that you're irrelevant to the ecosystem. It's really important everybody has a role, and our world plan really identifies some of the core priorities, and our federations, large, medium and small, are able to look at that plan and implement what they think is appropriate to the way they can develop the sport at a local level. So that's about as short an answer as I can give to a very complex landscape that we operate in.
Does the assistant report go to structural or technical?
Everything. So technical is important for us because we have coaching courses. We have, on a lot of our courses, of course, have changed their nature. The old days of thinking that you could send 3 or 4 coaches into a country and everybody ends up with a certificate after 3 days is very old-fashioned. So a lot of what we do, and Helen has been responsible in large part for that, a lot of what we do is online. It's more effective. During COVID, I was regularly online to our area associations, and they were organising programs for coaches, for technical officials, gender leadership courses. So all these things actually are very, very different in nature than what they were.
James Harrigan from the Anglia newspaper. Mr. Coe, since you're on Ireland, what have been your observations in terms of our needs here, and how can these needs be supplied?
Well, I'm loath to give you a detailed analysis of what I found in barely 24 hours, but let me start off by saying that the friendliness of the island is pretty clear, and I think I probably would have Helen's agreement on that. You know, from the moment we set foot onto soil here, we've been greeted and treated graciously, and it's been fun, but it's been focused. We had supper last night with the Premier. I had a meeting with the Governor this morning, another conversation with the Premier and his ministerial teams this afternoon. So it's been, from that element, it's been important. And what do I always look for as a federation president? I look for political engagement, and I've certainly got that. I think it's pretty evident that just one glimpse and a few moments standing at the side of what is a multi-purpose sports facility that seems to cover football, cricket, tennis, volleyball, and track and field shows that there is a need, certainly, for a specialist track and field facility, a track, and obviously the right level of equipment. So that would be the obvious and striking need, and that's what we're really engaged in the discussions about.
For the sake of anticipation, when can you expect these needs?
Well, all these tough process-led questions I always throw to my very capable Director of Governance, who is
it's a public interest.
She's sitting on my right-hand side. But before I ask her to go into the details, there is a very clear and defined process. We've had a number of applications for the funds that are available, but I think without breaching any confidences or saying something inappropriate, the case that Anguilla has made has been a compelling case. But Helen, over to you.
Thank you, President. Yeah, so we've circulated to all of our member federations exactly what the process and the timeline is. So that was sent out in September with all applications received in early December. So we're in the process now of evaluating those applications against kind of factors that look at strategic and the athletics need and the impact of having a facility as well as the technical side of things. And that evaluation process is taking place now with the intent to be in a position this month to have shortlisted, and then we would hope that would mean that a final decision can be made, and it's in conjunction with World Athletics and the Qatar Olympic Committee, who ultimately are funding with the Qatar Development Fund this initiative next month. So that's the timeline we're working to, and then the recipients or the beneficiaries would be looking to have work started as early as possible following site assessments and implementation plans being signed off.
Thank you.
I told you it would be a better answer.
She's more comprehensive, I guess.
Yes. Any other questions?
Dorothea Hodge, UK representative for Government of Anguilla. Can I ask you, what are some of your thoughts on the Anguillan athletes in particular that you encountered over the years? So Anguilla has got a great heritage of having international athletes. And how do you think we go about producing the next fastest man in the world?
Well, a track would obviously be helpful, which I guess is the answer you're looking for. Look, I'm on the circuit most of the year, both indoors, outdoors, but you know, our sport covers 5 other disciplines. We've got cross country, we've got road, we've got indoors, we've got throwing competitions. We now have a world road running championship. So, you know, it's a big sport. We coalesce under athletics, or this part of the world, track and field, but you know, we're many different disciplines, and that's the beauty of our sport. But it's pretty clear to me that you have some extraordinary talent here. I mean, I don't really need to go through the current crop, and you've got, you know, one of the fastest 100-meter runners in the world, a bronze medal in Budapest at the World Championships. And let me just be clear here too, and I think it's important. It is statistically harder, just to put into perspective what he achieved in Budapest. It is statistically harder to do that and win a medal in a truly global sport than any other Olympic sport. So when we sort of say, well, even an athlete only managed to get to the final and finish 8th, you're talking about an athlete, track and field athlete, that's 8th, in the top 8 in the world. And that's harder it's harder to get into the top 8 statistically, because everybody does our sport, everybody runs, it's the most accessible sport. It's far harder and a bigger achievement to get to that level than it is in, and I'm not dismissing the other sports, they're fabulous sports, but it is statistically harder because they're so much smaller in global terms. So I absolutely know that if we can create the right level of infrastructure and an amalgam around that of coaching, of people, of volunteers, of technical officials, then you can be a whole heap better than you currently are, and that's saying something.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm glad you agreed with that.
I do agree. I do agree. We're lucky enough to say that we have a team of really invested technical officials in the Department of Sports who really want to see track and field and all of the associated sports really rise. We see a lot of opportunity, and we are committed to painting the picture for all of our citizens to participate in and to access, whether or not they actually want to participate themselves, or they want to support, or any other avenue. So we're really excited. And as Seb said, you know, this is about the type of investment that we're doing. So I was going to indicate, if there are no other questions, what we could do is we can do a subsequent wrap up. But if you have any other questions, we can take one more, and then we'll wrap up for this afternoon so we can prepare for the athletes.
I have one other question, which is, what is the Anguilla secret? To be answered by anyone.
Ooh.
So this extraordinary crop of world-class athletes from an island of 15,000 people. What is the secret?
Not including that one thing?
Including the minister.
Okay.
What is the special secret?
We don't have
Can
yellow.
I, can
we don't
I
have
really
yellow
answer
yam.
that? About practice, but I think there's a I think that there's a genuine innate talent that we have, and perhaps sometimes size is in your favor, and it is probably easier to identify talent and to nurture that talent when it is so obvious. And the reality is that because we're so small and we would have the occasional talent coming through, we don't have the extra burden of having to find funds for so many other athletes. That's an advantage and a disadvantage, but given our size, I think that has worked in our favor. And it is really about identifying that talent and nurturing that talent, and because it is obviously there. So I don't know if I can call that a secret, but I think that is the basis of what is.
I know
Really.
the secret. Yeah, the secret is genetics. And just like Lorna said, we are small, which means that the population is mostly comprised of groups of families. So a lot of that seems to pass down. You'll see from our Olympians, they come from sporting families. People who participate in sport, it's in their blood. So you'll find a father who's a sprinter, their daughter's son comes out sprinting. We have some of the athletes who've gone away recently from Anguilla. They come from sprinting families, they come from throwing families, they come from athletic families. And I do think that that's a beautiful advantage for us to have. But to acknowledge it and to nurture it is what we then have to do. Knowing that it exists is good, but it's more important to then nurture it to fruition. Yeah. Yeah. You have an opinion, Seb?
Well, in a way, you guys are far too modest in a way, and that doesn't surprise me, but if you're looking for the ingredients to support athlete ambition, you're looking for clearly talent, yes. You're looking for good coaches, but good coaches don't get appointed unless you've got good federations that understand what a good coach looks like, male or female. It starts in schools. So it's pretty evident to me that you have a really healthy approach to track and field athletics as a sport at very young school age, and that's the ability then to get into patterns of exercise and behaviour. And Deanne's right that the most influential figure in the lives of most children and their impact in sport is if their parents are actively involved, and going out for a jog or picking up a tennis racket or whatever it happens to be is not something that is seen to be extraordinary. And also that needs to be supported by responsive government at both local and national level. And what I've witnessed in the 24 hours I've been here is you've got all those ingredients in place. So maybe it's not a secret, maybe it's just the methodology and the belief system that you have created here that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to have a go? Because
really cannot answer to those.
So we're gonna be wrapping up right now. Thank you for taking out the time to attend this short press conference. We're now going to be preparing for Seb and Helen to speak to the athletes and the coaches, those who we really want to get involved and excited about the trajectory of athletics that's coming next. So I want to invite you to keep your eyes peeled for this year, because we really do want to get the community's participation in this year for sports. So keep your eyes peeled to the Department of Sports pages, the ministry's pages, and the Government of Angola page as we continue to push out our promotions and our developments for sports this year. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
thank you.